Hi, everyone. We're just gonna give it a minute or so that other folks can trickle in. All right, I'm gonna kick off here. My name is Anna Pham, and I am the Director of Content and Programming here at Restaurants Canada. So excited that all of you folks could take out some time today to do another virtual workshop with us and joining us for maximizing profitability for restaurants and suppliers, strategies for efficiency and growth. And so very excited to have today Matthew Lachanzio. He has spent 10 years in the food tech industry, including a key role as VP of Operations at Hero Burger and also the Director of Marketing at Seven Shifts as well, where he learned what it takes to build a successful food brand. Now at Notch as the VP of Marketing, he's focused on helping the F&B industry simplify and automate their financial workflow. And of course, outside of work, Matthew loves for food, shows up in his kitchen where he enjoys cooking up elaborate meals with his friends and family. And then joining here as well is Kyle Emerson. Kyle Emerson is the Senior Partnership Manager and has spent the last 2 years at Notch dedicated to enhancing efficiency and driving automation within the sector. With a deep-rooted understanding of the challenges faced in this demanding industry, Kyle is driven to simplify processes and streamline operations, making a tough industry a little easier to navigate. And I won't delay this any further, as I know a lot of folks do need to get back to their restaurants. So without further ado, I'll take it over to Matthew and Kyle.
Awesome. Thank you, Anna. Appreciate the introductions. So yeah, again, my name's Matt. I'm the VP marketing here at I almost said Hero Burgers at Notch Financial. So we help kind of both sides of the coin. I like to kind of talk about Notch as being, I always use a brewery as an example. We have a number of breweries like Amsterdam Brewing and Nickelbrook. They use the product today, and they would, use us for both collecting cash and for paying people as well, and to make sure that their accounting system is synced up. So with an average restaurant that we would work with, everyone knows that stack of invoices that sits at the back office that you have to deal with at the end of your shift after a long night. Making sure that those are paid on time and integrated into your accounting system can be a massive headache, and obviously taking time away from your business to run the restaurant. So on our accounts payable and our OCR scanning side, we help to automate the ingestion of those invoices directly into your accounting system, and can actually help you dual sync that into your inventory system at the exact same time. Those of you using inventory systems such as Optimum Control or Navi or Whisk are familiar with these platforms to help you keep control of your inventory, so you really understand what's going in and out of your business, and helps you keep costs down. So everyone knows spillage and wastage on the food side, given how the cost of food and the rising cost of food today really contributes and affects your bottom line. And that's obviously something that's highly affecting restaurants. And then on the food service side, we work with a number of food distributors that sell to restaurants to help them collect cash faster and improve their DSO, definitely shortening their cash conversion cycles, and really helping to reduce manual tasks associated with accounting and collections on that side. So we help, the whole ecosystem, right? So we can work with anyone from the farm to the food distributor to the restaurant, really helping to improve profit and cash flow across the entire supply chain of the restaurant and food and beverage industry. These are some of our trusted partners. We work with brands such as O&B. They've been a longstanding client of ours and are really productive, and we love them. We've worked with them for so long. Blood Brothers, Amsterdam Brewing, The Butcher Shop being one of our marquee clients on the air side. Work with a number of breweries and a number of restaurants, Alouette. And we've now started to broaden out actually into some adjacent food industries like Kemson, who sells chemicals. So we work with a broader array of clients in multi different industries, from wine and spirits to beer, to restaurants to beer. Oh, sorry, beer. I said beer already, but to food distribution, to really help them with all of these automate a lot of these tasks. So we'll talk through first the current landscape and what's affecting restaurants today and our understanding of it, backed by some data provided by the RC show. We can talk a bit about efficiency and cost management. I can tell you firsthand, working with Hero Certified Burgers, and I know how hard it is to make profit in the restaurant space today, especially QSRs. You're being cut by third-party delivery platforms. You're having to really make your costs work for you, and even if you do everything right and everything goes perfectly, you're still left with very, tight margins and tight profit margins for you to kind of work with. So we understand that. We have some tips that can help, talk about how automation can help. Talking about ROI, so really understanding your profit margins across the business, whether that's your menu development or whether that's your internal costs as well. So trying to really help you, just give some tips and some things that we've seen from our clients and our customers and our experience in the industry as well. And then we can talk a bit about accounting automation for the AR side and finance automation as well. We'll leave time for questions at the end. And is there a way for folks to ask questions during the webinar, or is this just for the end?
Yeah, absolutely. People can definitely put questions in the chat box. And if yourself and Kyle want to take a look at those questions as well and kind of tackle them as you go, we're definitely open with that.
Cool. Yeah, I prefer that. If you have a question, feel free to type it in the chat. I'll do my best to look at this as we go and provide any answers that we can. Great. So when understanding the current cost landscape, so this slide's probably not news to any of you. We know that food costs are rising. We know labor costs are rising. I could tell you at Seven Chips, that was we tried to help restaurants get control over their labor costs. It was getting so out of control, and there were so many wasted hours and time, and our software actually helped. I'm sure a lot of you on this call are probably Seven Chips clients. I recognize some of the names here and the locations, but just being able to control your labor costs is such a crucial part of your business and your food costs, and really understand how those two work together. 47% of food service operators are operating at a loss or just breaking even. And as I said earlier, this is also if you're doing everything right. So when something does go wrong and your dishwasher breaks, or you have, maintenance to take care of, or building maintenance, or you have, third party deliveries, making you pay for customers' food when it wasn't caught on time. And, there's so many factors affecting your profit margins that, we know is tough right now. What's adding up, as I said, is labor costs, food costs, operational expenses, really, really slim margins across the board. We're going to help to try to equip your business with some really practical strategies throughout this presentation that can hopefully help you address some of these, or at least understand where they're coming from. What I see is like improving efficiency as being the biggest theme here. So, these things aren't changing. Like, as much as we hate 3PDs, and I'm sorry if some of you are on the call right now, but I know that, there tends to be a lot of contention there. The customer behavior isn't really changing, right? People want to order from the freedom of their own home. And unfortunately, that's become like, the Netflix sort of vacation of the food industry, where consumer convenience is sort of taking the priority. Food costs are not going down, labor costs are definitely not going down. So really the question is, how do you manage it all, right? How do you take what can you control, and how do you control it to your ability, so that we can try to make some meaningful progress in these areas. So what we like to think about is like, is the untapped profit, right? So where can you make adjustments within your business? And we've seen it in a few different areas. So actually, I'm going to go back 2 slides here. So looking at this slide here, actually, so where are the things that you can control? So one, food costs, yes, they are fixed, right? Like they are rising, but how do you take advantage of 2 things, which would be less wastage? So making sure that you're managing your inventory to a point where you're not seeing any spillage in your food costs, and you're not wasting food. And put very simply, like, I'm Italian first generation, like wasting food is not a thing in my own household. I can imagine how that is for, a multi-unit, operation. Total labor costs as well. How do you make sure that there's no one sitting around, right? And you're making sure that your working hours of people working for your business are focused on the right things, right? So if automation and technology can help to address some of that, as Notch does and other software providers do, it's important to really be open to change there. And what we often heard at Seven Shifts was, I can do my schedule better than anybody, or I know better than a computer, or I know better than software automation. But when you look at the labor costs and the amount of hours going into that expenditure, really we help save restaurant customers, 9 to 10 hours a week sometimes. notch, 5 to 6 hours a week on managing those invoices. So even if you can do it, doesn't mean you should do it. And I think that's one of the takeaways I like to leave folks with is that, there's a lot of friction and a lot of lack of adoption of technology in the restaurant space, despite its size and despite, these numbers that I'm showing you here that are really stark. There tends to be a lot of resistance to change. So I like to always, encourage and just talk through your business and really understand where are opportunities for automation and where can software help you and what can you control, and really just thinking about how to put that into practice. So those are some things I often, we see our customers thinking about. Some of our customers who have adopted technology and are thinking forward to the future are really the ones who are considering these and not just dealing with the status quo. Because frankly, the status quo is operating at a loss or operating at really, really low margins. And we can't continue to do that for a number of repeat years, as we know. All right, any questions? I'm just gonna jump on to the next section. I'll keep checking the chat here. So menu prices are expected to rise, and there's also, as we've seen in the market as well, increased costs in service charges as well. It's being introduced to Canada, and a lot of customers are finding other ways to make money that is sort of pushed onto your end customer. While that's definitely something we should be exploring, service charges are long overdue, and I think are now becoming more of the adopted part of the Canadian restaurant landscape. And if you have, increasing menu prices is something you have to do. These are all things that you have to do. But also thinking about ways that you can reduce and increase, increase profit internally, right? So thinking about things like reducing the number of menu items on your menu. At Hero Burger, we would constant contention about this. We had way too many options on the menu. We stocked, I think it was like 82 SKUs of product in the store to make a burger. And it was something I was constantly fighting against, right? Like, how can that be 12 or 20 years? How can that be reduced in half, right? Do we need the and this is all available to you, right? So whether you have a dated POS where you have to manually look at your books, or you have, an inventory system that helps you understand what's selling the most, it's really important for you to really make those critical decisions, even though you really love the organic mushrooms that you might, if you're personally, you have to take your sort of personal feelings out of it sometimes. Unfortunately, even though you really love that dish and that's something that your chefs worked really hard trying to develop, and a few customers who love it, if it's selling 1 out of 10 times and someone's coming into your restaurant, it's something you need to address. And I think that's the critical kind of looking inwards at your business that we encourage a lot of our customers to take advantage of with the adoption of technology. It just makes sense. And unfortunately, it's a cold, decision to make sometimes, but these are things that, some of our customers who have got ahead of these efficiency curves are doing. Looking for ways to increase overhead internally can also just be as simple as, what are your overhead costs that can be reduced, right? So something as simple as like energy efficient appliances. How do you streamline your workflows? How do you make special promotions work for you, not against you? These are all things to consider. A small note on promotions and costs is, I think when I was at Hero Burger, our franchisees would often debate us on promotions, and they would think that people, it would train a customer to only come in for that discount. And I think that pricing strategy is true of other industries. I've worked in a number of different industries over my career in marketing, and I do think that, fashion is a good example of that, where, customers are only coming in when the price tag is low. But I think the thing to be aware of in this market is that there's so many options, more than ever before. A customer has a plethora of options to choose from. It's no longer just where they can walk to. It's whatever can deliver it to them within 30 minutes. And these apps have made it more accessible for customers to get access to more choices. And I'll give you an example recently. This is just a personal example, but Oswald's just down the street from here. I never tried it before. They had a special going on for chicken on the rocks. It seemed healthy, it seemed cheap and efficient. I needed something quick. I've ordered that 6 times since, and that was something that I never tried before. I was never a repeat customer, and that promotion, I'm assuming, was either at a loss or probably a parity cost for them at the time, because it was really affordable. But that's now made me a repeat customer. And I do think a lot of consumers react that way, right? They explore new options. If the food is good and they like what they're getting and the service is really good, you do have an opportunity to build incremental added cost to your business, like sorry, not cost, sorry, incremental revenue to your business, not just thinking about that as a short-term loss. Tracking everything. So, again, just going back to my earlier comment about tracking, Notch does help customers sync inventory directly to their accounting system and their inventory management system at the same time. I'm assuming, a lot of you have had experience with an IMS of some sort. It is becoming more commonplace and more widely adopted. We're huge fans of it, and our customers are huge fans of it. When you know what's coming in and out of your business and you know what those costs are as well, and actually those rising costs over time, it can help you get ahead of it. One of our customers is a cacao distributor. So they distribute cacao to chocolate manufacturers. As everyone's seen in the news, like cacao's pricing has exploded, right? And it's made the cost of the end product so much more expensive for our customers. Using an IMS actually allowed them to track the trends over time to help them understand where the rising costs were and how they were able to get ahead of it. So they were able to secure more cacao that they could sell to their customers earlier. Using an IMS can help you do that, right? If you know that the cost of mushrooms is rising or the cost of or the scarcity of certain resources, like we're selling things that are grown in the ground, right? Like there's scarcity, there's droughts, there's things that can affect food costs in real time. And it's important for you to get ahead of if that's possible for your business. And that's not possible in every business. You don't have the storage, you don't have other things, but if it's possible for you to do an order, double or triple order even, right, to accommodate your next couple of months, that's important for you to take advantage of, and using an IMS can really help you achieve that. And maximizing ROI. So we all want to put great products on the plate. I work directly with Danny Meyer in our Series B raise at 7Shifts, and he's so passionate about this and making sure that the customer experience is above all. And I think that in certain industries, especially in full service, where cost is not as much of an option, and we're really priced to the end use customer and based on the experience. I think there's absolutely room for it to be creative and to have some wastage. And as long as the economics make sense, through my experience in QSR, it's not possible. It makes it really difficult to compete on cost. Now, I'll say as well, consumers are more than ever willing to spend more money on food. I'd say that the appetite for customers to not cook is higher than it's ever been. I think people do not balk at a $15 to $20 lunch as they used to. Our entire team at the office today ordered lunch, and I can only imagine what that bill cost between everyone. No one brings lunch anymore. Like there's just like a lot of consumer behavior changes that have happened that have made way for more flexibility on your final costs. But it also is really important to understand what's selling and how you can make that the most profitable menu item for you. So it's two things: it's volume and it's profit. So if you can sell something so many times, even though there's a 10% profit, but then your stuff, your menu items that are not sold as frequently need to operate at a higher profit margin. So I think just really understanding that. I think a lot of customers don't know what their margins on their menu items might even be, right? It's the whole makeup of the menu, but it is important to understand what's selling and how to maximize the profit on that. And having an IMS system, having trackability of your sales data through your POS are all ways that you can do that. And then lastly, financial busy work. So, we help to support accounting automation, obviously, so we're biased here, but we definitely see a lot of wasted hours in that back office, supporting things like invoicing, payments, collections, organizing their inventory manually. There are so many tools available to you, whether that's Notch or another platform. Obviously, we prefer that's Notch, but there is so many options out there for you to take control of this. And I would really just advise you to get out of the habit, as I said earlier, about this is how it's always been done, or I do it better than anything else is going to do. Be open, right? I think no one actually, Anna at the beginning of this call was talking about her time at if you don't mind me sharing on it, but
Libretto, yeah.
Libretto, where she was dreading that 5 hours at the end of her shift after already a long shift, having to go back in the office and manually enter all our invoices into their accounting system, where we would save them just a tremendous amount of time that really is invaluable, especially with the rising labor costs. And also the other thing just to factor in is like, and it's not free, right? Like if you're a restaurant owner and you have someone who is working out like crazy hours for you, like yes, maybe their wage isn't what it needs to be, but it's probably more expensive than software, right? And I think that that's the connection that we don't often make, is that a human person who's working doing this manual effort is a cost saving to your business, and Anna wants to go home earlier too. So it's actually a win-win, right? There's a lot of benefits to kind of combining, the tools available to you in today's world with the practicality of running a restaurant. Cool. I'm gonna hand it over to Kyle. I didn't see any questions pop up in the chat, but we can definitely stay on afterwards if there's any follow-up. I'll let Kyle talk through some of the more accounting specific workflows. But let you go ahead, Kyle.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Yeah, so I guess these last 10 minutes before we do the Q&A session, I'm just going to kind of talk about a bit more of like the tech stack landscape, where one of these invoicing solutions or payment solutions kind of do fit into a tech stack here in the restaurant industry. So next slide, please, Matt. Really, what we look at first is, what is the life cycle of your invoice, right? So running a restaurant, you're having many invoices coming into your front door every day, maybe sometimes 10, 20, 30. We have clients who are seeing 500 invoices a month, which is that's a lot to handle, right? So that's when you start turning toward technology and automation and learning and leaning in on these tools to really help you I guess tidy up some of these manual processes, right? So really when we look at an invoice lifecycle, we look at kind of two different areas, right? So what happens to the invoice when it enters the facility? Is there an IMS tool that you need to get that invoice into, right? Is that invoice manually entered into an inventory system? Okay, great. How long does that take, right? Sometimes it's sitting on a chef's desk for weeks before it even gets to the accounting department. Right. So we need to see exactly how long that takes and how long it's getting to the accounting department to then get paid. Right. Because we see this all the time, right? You receive your invoice. Usually it's not the person that placed the order even receiving the invoice. It's one of your, it could be a bar back, it could be a sous chef, it could be a line cook, it could be anybody who is available at the time. Right. So we need to see exactly what happens to that invoice when it comes in and how it gets to the accountant to then eventually get paid. Right. So precise financial records are super important for us to make crucial decisions, and that kind of does start at the first point, right? Like you're ordering your product, you have product coming to your facility, you are then entering that invoice into your IMS. How are you entering that invoice into your IMS? If you use a technology like Notch or the other, just to simply take a photo of it and get it into that product, you're getting that record updated in live time. Right? You're getting it done same day as the order came in. You're able to then make that strong business decision later on that week when you need to go and order that product again, right? That also doesn't let you fall behind on financial records, where you get to pay off that invoice quicker and it gets to your accountant. So they're not, invoices are piled up. They get it in live time. Okay, and I'll kind of talk about how that workflow is automated through Notch in the coming little bit here. But really, when we look at, minimizing accounting errors and just honestly manual errors in general, we look at your workflow and how the invoice really goes through your workflow. So next slide, Matt. Perfect. So automating your finances, right? So there are a couple points on here. The first point really hits on the restaurant side. The other two are more so for our accounts receivable product for our food service providers. I will touch on it briefly because it obviously does interact with you guys, but mainly first one is like streamlining payments to suppliers, right? So some of you may have one supplier, some of you may have 100 suppliers, right? We've seen everywhere in between, right? And the more suppliers there are, typically the more labor that comes along with it to then pay off these suppliers and then pay those vendors, right? So when you do have an automated system in place to track that invoice going through your systems, you then can track due dates, product, all that, and it adds to a queue where your accounting team knows exactly when that bill needs to be paid, right? So full on life cycle of the invoice gets entered into IMS, gets entered into accounting, and then needs to be paid off. That's 3 different manual processes that automating your financial cash flow is really going to help. And here at Notch, when we think of like a financial workflow, we think about the entire invoice and where it goes, right? So automating that process is only going to get things done faster for you, and also give you that opportunity to really make those financial decisions for your business, right? Because if that price of lettuce has just gone up, from one supplier on Monday, and doesn't get entered in your IMS, director of operations, leadership doesn't see that until the following Monday, maybe you've already ordered that lettuce 3 or 4 times, right? Or maybe you've already, you're now losing on a margin that you initially had on your menu item, right? So these decisions can be made very quickly when you're automating some of these financial workflows, getting those invoices into your respective systems. Okay. Now, quickly, just to touch on kind of the AR side and what we do for the food service distributors here. The way we see it is the whole payment workflow of money moving throughout the food industry. It's a double-sided coin, right? It really is. There's a pain in paying these invoices, and there's a pain in receiving the payments, right? It's an industry that's really kind of been manual forever, right? And we're really trying to transition that into more of an automated system where it's better for the buyer and it's better for the supplier, right? And in that case, quickly, a matter of like helping a food supplier, for example, we can help them automate their invoices sent out. We can help them set up with connections with their buyers where they can have, dispute functionalities in the invoicing, and pull payments, for example, if there's no disputes, right? So something that we're trying to work toward and getting more towards the norm, right? Of if there's no disputes in a certain amount of time, why not have that pull payment pulled from your buyer, because they're just going to pay you that anyways, and you can have it back and forth. But instead of making this manual and checks being sent and all of that, there's got to be a better way, and I think that's where Notch really fits in on the automation, anyways. Next slide there, Matt. Thanks. So really just investing in the right technology. And I think the main point I really wanted to touch on this slide is just take a look at OCR technology. OCR stands for optimal character recognition. We have the biggest players in the tech space, obviously creating this technology. We have Google, Amazon, Microsoft. They all are building these fantastic OCR products that are used by Notch and other products out there. Some IMSs out there have these already embedded, right? Not just here for you if you have an IMS that doesn't have that already embedded. A lot of the accounting systems, right, that take Notch, for example, we integrate into up to, I think it's 15 different accounting softwares that we can actually help you get and use OCR to actually get that invoice into this technology, right? So OCR really helps you kind of extract the data from a paper format of an invoice and then put it in a format that your digital copies can read and push into your system. So if you're going to take anything away from this call, I really do think that it'd be best if you do kind of look into an OCR technology, see how it works with your tech stack, reach out to us, reach out to other OCR products out there, and just see if there's some compatibility just to help you with that manual entry into your tech stacks. Matt, next slide. Thanks. So scaling your operations, and this is really something that we focus on, and when you do come out with, as a client, it's one of our first kind of things we talk about in our CSM meetings is, what's your kind of goal moving forward? What's the real thing you're trying to accomplish? If you're trying to scale, and I would say 9 times out of 10, this is what the clients will say. Yes, we're trying to scale with either the current team in place, or we don't even know how to scale, right? Like we're looking for technology to help us put us in a successful position so that I'm confident as a director of operations or an owner that I can go out and I can either acquire more locations or open new locations, right? So I need a strong tech stack that I can almost cookie cut and put at every single location so that I know from a bird's eye view what's going on at every location, but I also know that the tech stack's been tested and that I can scale at this point, right? So that's where we really help. Next slide, Matt. So of course, manual process, you've heard us say it many, many times. That's the biggest killer of labor right now. It really is, right? And I come from restaurants. I was part of the Cactus Club family for, I think it was 10 years. And part of my job for probably 80% of that time was making sure all the processes were up to date. I remember I'd be coming on a Monday from 8 a.m. till 4 p.m. and all I did was just data entry for all of the bar stuff that just came in over the weekend, right? So that's an expense, and to Matt's point too, right? And Anna, like, people are expensive, right? And sometimes what we're seeing is a lot of the people that are doing these manual processes for you are those more expensive members of your staff, right? They're either the managers or they're sometimes the AGMs or even the GMs are doing it, right? And these are the expensive individuals that are doing these manual processes. So again,
I'd also say that we talk to a lot of owner operators who they don't value their own time as much either, and that's something that I see a ton. Like, I'll just do it. Like, I'll just do the extra time, but they're not really considering like what else they could be doing to grow their business, or like how their own time can be repurposed. We see that a lot with breweries, right? Because they're typically like smaller operations that are manned by one or two people. A good friend of mine owns a brewery, and he's the same hard-headed mindset. Like, he just wants to do it all himself manually. But it's up to, we try to convince our customers to see beyond that. And I think that's the biggest insight I have there as well with the kind of smaller owner operator, not just the bigger, conglomerate restaurant groups.
Yeah, well said, Matt, for sure. And it actually brings up a good point, and a story I always like to tell is I always sell, well, I don't always, but when I meet independent operators who are kind of that person who wears all the hats in the industry, or in their location, they're the ones that really get value from this too. They say, wow, okay, so this is what's taken up a lot of my time. Not only could I do other things, but I can also better my staff by being more present, and I can give them more breaks, and I can be more hands-on with them and teach them, right? And a lot of that doesn't get done until all the manual stuff gets done, right? So if you take care of the paperwork that now technology can do for you, you can focus on the key points of bettering your staff, giving them more breaks, kind of just making it a more workable environment and enjoyable environment by handling the manual stuff. Right. Next slide there, Matt. And I know we're kind of bleeding into the Q&A part here, so I'll try to pick it up here. I only have a few more slides. So really, again, what this comes down to is automating the process. And I want to just quickly explain like what parts you could be automating with this kind of software. So really what you're doing is automating your invoice, right? So you receive an invoice, you're automating all of the workflow, getting that into your systems. And then you're going to automate the payment. So that invoice can get uploaded into your system, and then you can actually automate the payment. So you can schedule a time payments, you can dispute an invoice, you can do all of that. But that's kind of getting ahead of it and really automating a lot of it. Okay. Matt, next slide, please. Thanks. So now just quickly touching on, sorry, go ahead, Matt. Next one. Yeah. So really going through just the Notch platform now quickly for everyone, just to kind of tie it all together. Matt kind of already went through this, but just on this slide, it shows exactly where Notch fits into the landscape of all of food and beverage. So we kind of fit in the middle, right? We work really with food and beverage distributors, and also on the far right in food service and hospitality, as well as actually at the root of manufacturer, right? So within this whole landscape, from product being created or farmed all the way to getting on your tables in restaurants, there's a ton of goods being exchanged, and there are a ton of invoices and payments getting exchanged. That's where Notch fits in. As long as there's bills flowing, we can help. So, we can help that distributor pay the bills to the manufacturer. We can also help the food service pay those invoices back to distributor, better that relationship with distributor, and also automate all the paperwork that they have at the service. Next slide, Matt. Breaking it down simply just for restaurants, we're a bills and invoice management solution. Again, I said it right at the beginning. We look at your invoice lifecycle. All right. We will help you from the second you get that invoice until it gets paid and closed out into your accounting system. All right. And everything through. We sync data into two ways, which means that it's actually quite complicated, because when you're looking at an inventory management system, for example, you are automating the data entry by line item into that. But for an accounting system, for example, you may only care about that GL code going in, right? So we're actually able to separate the data and push it into two different systems, which is very unique in this industry. That's what makes Notch a very, very valuable product in this industry, because we're food and beverage specific, and that's where we grew. That's where we were created in the food and beverage industry. We've designed this product for you. We designed this for, we heard that, yeah, okay, accounting system, that was always manual, but the inventory system, that's also manual. The double data entry in restaurants is really where Notch's platform grew. And that's what we've trying to overcome, is that double data entry. Please move on, Matt. And then just wrapping it up, just on the two sides. So accounts payable, I've already kind of said it, but accounts payable is obviously you paying the distributor. Okay, so in order to do that, you're able to actually upload the invoice into Notch, sync it into the systems. We will apply the GL codes and sync that into your accounting system and inventory systems. We'll also set up a queue as well as a master queue. So if you're a director of operation, you can see the bills being paid at every location. If there's anything past due, if there's anything disputed, you can always have a good insight going on. And accounts receivable, what we do is we hook up to the distributor's either ERP or accounting system. We will then send out invoices. We can set up auto pay for you to just set up auto collection. And we also help them a lot with the posting of payments, right? So when a payment is actually sent by you, we help them with the admin side, right? So distributors also have a lot of manual work. We help them with that side as well. Matt, next slide. Perfect. And then last slide, just on Notch here. What we really do, and kind of our key pillars here is, we're trying to minimize late payments, right? So we don't want restaurants to fall behind on payments. We provide embedded payment links. So, the invoices that you may get from your supplier, we want that process to be very, very streamlined and simple for you. We want you to get that invoice. We want you to see a payment link on there, and we want you to be able to schedule a payment link through that, or schedule a payment through that, right? We don't want you to have to run to your bank and look through your email inbox of, okay, I have 5 invoices left outstanding for supplier X. I have to go to the bank, write a check for $1,000. It may or may not match the total that's owed. We're trying to really streamline that process for you via embedded payment links. Moving more payments online, it's really, really our goal. Really our goal. And again, this industry, and as you all know, is very, very manual. We're just trying to make things easier for both parties, supplier and restaurant. And by doing that, we're moving payments online. So, 1 to 2 click payments, connecting bank accounts to your portals, your payment portals, and really just making that a really easy option for you to pay from your phone or even from home if you're not there. And then, of course, the biggest one for everybody is, and why we're, where we are now in the restaurant industry is just syncing that data, right? Syncing that data into your systems. All right. And then Matt, one more slide, or 2 more slides. Actually, this is just one, case study / testimonial that, one of our largest restaurant clients have said about us. And, I very happily can share this. Like, Oliver Bonacini has really helped us build the Notch that we are today. So just quickly to, quote Eric Schrank here, who's, one of the direct operations for them. Notch allows us to automate a great deal of manual work due to its ability to integrate with our inventory software. Streamlining the ordering and invoice entry process, in turn, allows our management teams to focus on providing our guests with uncompromising quality and service. Next slide, Matt. Amazing. And that's where we'll leave you guys. Thank you so much for listening and taking time in your day, especially right after lunch rush. I really, really appreciate that. And that's my contact info. I just wanted to add it if anybody had any questions after, or, wanted to ask any more, things about data entry or payments or where Notch is going. Obviously happy to address.
We're happy to take questions as well. Yeah, absolutely. There's still, we can keep the chat open here. This is our Q&A section. And is there another process for that, or they just type in the chat?
Yeah, they can type it in the chat. If it's more of a private question, they can obviously email yourself or our email as well. I do have a question, actually. I feel as though sometimes with the biggest struggle of integrating tech is when things don't work efficiently, or when things go down, middle, and this is not the same as, using maybe a card payment system or your POS where it goes down in the middle of a Friday night service. But curious to know what your customer service model or support looks like for all of the restaurants that you help and support. Like, is there a big onboarding and training process? Do you help with training the managers, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, I'll let Kyle take that one, actually.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So it's quite funny, actually. So a lot of our individuals who do work at Notch come from this industry.
Yeah.
Obviously, Matt came from this industry. I have come from this industry. A lot of people that work at Notch kind of just still bleed the industry and understand that it's a customer service industry, right? And I think that's really where we're embedded in our customer service as well as, that's something that doesn't change in an individual. If you're in hospitality, your customer service, that kind of stays with you throughout your career. So what we do and we're really proud of is, every single individual that we, bring on the platform gets a full-on training session with us. They get an assigned account manager with us. And they'll always have an open communications to two, sometimes even three of us at any given time. So we're always here to help. And really what we love about our jobs, and especially in the, account manager position is, just really learning what your pains are and addressing what you're looking to achieve. And that's where we work from. Right. So if anything I can say is, and if you're nervous about, any integrations or if a product can help what your current setup is, it doesn't hurt to ask, right? Just reach out, ask us, and we're happy to either help you ourselves or point you in the right direction, right? If that's not something that we can help with. So.
Awesome. And one last thing here before we get off, and for all of the folks who are still on this webinar, we do just have a quick poll here. If you could drop in your answers, we would really appreciate it with any data that supports our research and making sure that we support all of our members and our industry in the best way possible. And other than that, that's all from me. Kyle and Matt, do you have any final comments or questions while people fill this out?
No.
No.
Yeah, nothing. Just wanted to say thanks so much for everybody joining. Obviously, it's a Tuesday afternoon right after lunch rush, like I said. So we just really appreciate you hearing us out. And for anybody listening to the recordings till now too, thank you so much for listening. And hopefully we can chat in the future.
Amazing. Thank you to the both of you as well. And again, of course, everybody who registered, not just attend today, in 48 hours, will be getting a recording for this session, along with the PDF for this deck as well as they presented. And of course, contact information should you want to touch base with the folks over at Notch Financial directly. At any time, if you have any sort of topics that you want Restaurants Canada to touch on as well, feel free to contact us. And thanks so much.